but there you go. So I can tell you a little bit more about Kitty, in addition to the fact she's a wonderful goddaughter. Kitty has written the Wall Street Journal's Slow Food Fast column since the paper's lifestyle section started. So that's pretty cool. Off Duty launched about a decade ago.
Yeah.
The section has won a number of awards: James Beard Award for Best General Food Coverage, and the book you co-authored, Slow Fires, has also been nominated for a James Beard Award. You host a monthly live cooking demonstration for the Wall Street Journal, and over the years worked on numerous projects related to the column and beyond. Kitty's other writings have been published and featured in the New York Times, All Things Considered, Eater, New York Magazine, and more. Before writing about food, you launched Etsy's food program, and before that, cut your teeth in professional kitchens in California, Washington, France, Italy, and Portugal. And what I find particularly fun is the fact that you describe yourself as a food lover with a Joan of Arc complex. So you can tell us a little bit about that while you're cooking. We are really, really honored to have you here today, and I appreciate you spending the time and sharing your recipe and your cooking knowledge with us. So welcome, Kitty.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. I think there was another participant that was on and went off. I just wanted to get her name because it was V. Horowitz. Is that right?
Vanita, oh, she's here.
Okay, great. Hi, Vanita. I just wanted to say hello. And I like your glasses. So I think this is a very nice size class, and I'm just going to show you how to make this sort of very basic chicken recipe. It's something you can adapt. Since no one seems to be cooking along, I don't feel that bad about this admission that I'll front end. It was supposed to be peas, mushrooms, and asparagus. Right before going live, I realized I forgot the asparagus, but everything else we have. So I'll swap in, and if anyone has asparagus or if anyone has questions about substitutes, I'll say this is when you should be adding it. It'll still be a spring-y dish, but the base of this dish is basically just braised chicken with wine and aromatics and vegetables, and then we're boiling some potatoes, but you can serve it over polenta or grits or whatever. So the only thing I did to prepare, I'm going to angle this that way, is in this back pot here, I have some salted water boiling. And then in this pot here, I'm going to brown some chicken, and I'm going to use that base of the fat that the skin comes off of to then saute my vegetables and work through it like that. And I don't think we need to mute anybody really if there's just 6 of us, right? I mean,
right. And I just wanted to mention that everybody comes into the meeting muted. Okay. If you'd like to unmute and ask questions, feel free to do so. If you want to put questions into the chat box, I've already discussed with Kitty that I would, interrupt her to ask any questions that show up in the chat box.
Okay, so I'm going to start. We have okay, there we go. So I'm going to start. Whenever you brown anything, you want to make sure that there's enough. You need some fat in there or else the skin won't properly crisp. But there's enough fat in chicken thighs so that the skin will give off plenty of fat. So I've only just sort of lightly, can you see? It's not that much. Lightly coated it. And then I'm going to be working over sort of medium to medium low heat. And then I have these chicken thighs, and I do prefer bone in, skin on for flavor. Even if I'm making chicken broth, I tend to do that. So you're going to hear some spattering, and I have some tongs, but what I really want to do is sort of brown the skin, get it crispy. And then as that crisps up, I will slice up some aromatics that then we'll stir into this base. And then we'll sort of build out the vegetable part of this in keeping with how long the vegetables take to cook. So, all right, it's hot enough. Oh shoot, I didn't need to salt and pepper this. So I'm going to salt the skins. And we're using Malden, just generously salting the skin side. And even if I had like laid that in without seasoning it, you know, you can always salt a little later. So, and then
are you using a coarse or a ground salt?
I'm using Malden, which is a coarse salt. I'm writing this cookbook for these ladies right now, and they only cook with Malden salt. I think it's a little extravagant. My preferred salt for cooking is kosher. I always do use a coarse salt, though. I'm just gonna go take my plate off to the side. Hold on.
Okay.
So, lowering this down. I do like a coarse salt because you can feel how much salt you're putting on. I've also salted that water, which is boiling. The potatoes are new potatoes, so these will probably take like 15 minutes. So I'll probably add this once we're 15 minutes out from being done. And I'll just lower that. Can you hear me? Is it very loud?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So now these are spring onions, which are just coming into season, cross between scallions and onions, basically is how I think of them. And you can use the whole shaft of it. The lower bulbous part is going to be more tender. So you just want to peel off the external layer as you would with a scallion. And the benefit of sort of cooking with these springy vegetables, I think it's a little early still for asparagus, is that but these are fresh and reasonable. It's just, you know, it doesn't have that sort of stink of an onion that's been in the pantry for a long time. So it's a little sweeter. That's really it. It's just a little sweeter. And it requires less cooking time as a result, because you don't need to sort of cook the storage taste out of it. And I'm slicing this like about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Okay.
And generally when you slice, a friend taught me this, which is actually true, you should typically sort of think about like how you want the bites in your mouth to be. So what we really want is the onion almost to kind of disappear, but to still be there. Like we don't want it to slip into the, you know, into the background completely. And so this will give you some texture, but nothing annoying. So that's about the right amount for the amount of chicken that we have, but it's pretty flexible.
And for the amount of chicken, just to double check, you put in 3?
I put in 3 because I was told that we tend not to cook for large quantities. And this is the, you know, an every night recipe. You can dress this up pretty easily. And when you're browning chicken, you don't really want to fuss with it. It should you don't want to keep checking on it. You want it to just sit there and do its thing, and it'll stick. And if you start messing with it before it releases, you're going to tear the skin. So you have to sort of just look at the sides of the thighs to see the cooking happen. Sort of, you'll start seeing the skin on the sides crisp, and part of the meat will whiten, and then you can go in and see if you can shake it loose. But you know, you don't want to tear it because the skin is really sort of the best part. I mean, you know, unless you're trying to be healthy.
Kitty, could you substitute leeks for the onions?
Yes, you can substitute leeks for the onions. You can substitute scallions for the onions. You can substitute shallots for the onions. I like shallots. I mean, any old, I would say this is probably like this comparable to a small yellow onion. The other ingredient that we're going to use are mushrooms. So these are, I believe this is a maitake. And I'm just gonna rip it into, I've just run it under water. You don't really wanna have it submerged in water too long. I think Jacques Pepin's technique is you just dunk it in a big bath of water, you shake it, and then you take it out. Mushrooms are porous, so they'll absorb
Yeah.
all the liquid that they're sitting in. So similarly, I'm just gonna sort of tear these into bite-sized pieces. And you can
And-
rip it, yeah.
Yeah, what kind are those?
These are mayatakes.
Mayatake, okay.
Yeah. And so this will be a little bigger than the onion, but it'll give you sort of a bite. And there's like a shiitake that was in the mix, so we're gonna use that. And then the other thing I had knocking around was a fennel bulb. So
Oh.
springy enough. I like fennel, so I'm gonna go ahead and dice this up. You don't need to, and add it to the base as well. It'll just sort of add a little anise flavor and some sweetness. So I'm gonna cut that open, and that's small enough.
What is that?
Sorry,
Is that, Kitty?
it's a head of fennel.
Oh,
Fennel,
yes.
Fennel. And I just peeled back the tougher outer layers. And what someone said, which is true, even if you find a fennel bulb that's been in your fridge for a long time, if you just peel back the outer layers, eventually you'll get to something that's usable.
That's a good hint.
Yeah. So don't throw anything out. So
I
I
wanna-
put up, yeah.
Yeah. Trader Joe's, by the way, has great fennel all the time.
Oh, that's good to know. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so the soft layer, outer layer was a little soft, so I'm discarding that. And I'm just gonna use that sort of nubbin, which
Okay.
isn't that much, and I'm just gonna use all of it. So,
I always think fennel has a sort of a licorice flavor.
It does.
yeah, do you like that or do you not like that very much?
Sometimes I like it. It depends on the,
On
what
the
it's being
application.
used in.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's going to be great with the chicken.
well, that's kind of you to say, but we'll see.
I think, Kitty, what you raise is a good point. It's what you have in the house. So this is a nice,
Right.
easy dish to make that
Yeah.
you can use the ingredients that you have in the house and, add to it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just pick up the computer screen and bring you over to show you the browning of the chicken, because I think this is something people tend to do. So can you see this? So,
Yes?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
so here, that's pretty much golden brown. I'm gonna salt, and it's starting to whiten on the edge, as I sort of said, so you can see the cooking sort of happen. I'm gonna salt the meat side and then flip it so that seasoning gets seared in. And then I can pour off some of this fat. I know it's a fair amount. The chicken thighs give off a fair amount of fat.
They do. And aren't tongues great? Those silicone tongues are like my new favorite kitchen tool.
Oh, it's
Oh.
what? What's your new favorite kitchen tool?
The tongues. The
Oh
silicone
yeah, I love a tongs.
So
I just-
Kitty taught me the trick. You know how with salt we use shakers. And Kitty, when she was staying with us, put the salt in we had a little ramekin.
Yeah.
And to this day, we put our salt in a ramekin and actually pick it up because you can control the amount of salt
Yes,
so much better.
that's
So we-
true.
We take the Malden salt out of the box or the kosher salt, put it in the ramekin, and that is, so thank you, Kitty.
Ah, thanks. I'm just gonna show you the chicken skins because I'm proud of them.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's how you want it. So that's if you don't mess with it, and you don't. And the only way that you can really mess that up is if you have the oven, the temperature too high, because then it will blacken in spots. And even so, if it's too low, it will eventually, you'll just render out more fat, but it will eventually get there. It'll just take probably too long. I'm gonna get a bowl just to pour off some of these fat drippings into. So just bear with me for a sec.
Sure. So while we're waiting for Kitty to pour off the fat, does anybody else have any favorite kitchen tools they like to use?
Well, I've been using the spatula, but my daughter gave me them, and I really use it.
Yeah.
She uses about 3 of them. You know, she likes them too, so.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
So here's what we have left. And it's just sort of skimming the pan.
Uh-huh.
So it's not too much. And I would say it's probably about 2 tablespoons. There's 2 schools of thought on this. I'm going to turn this down so you can hear me. There's 2 schools of thought. Like some people don't like the taste of chicken fat and that the taste of olive oil would be cleaner. So you could just pour everything off. I'm going to move this to the side so I build the vegetable base. Thank you. That's nice and peaceful, right? But I'm just going to go ahead and use the chicken drippings if nobody minds. I mean, so I'm
But
going to.
right ahead, I can almost smell it. It looks so good.
Okay, well, I'm gonna add this is the onion that we sliced up and the fennel. So I'm just adding that to the pot. And once that sort of gets softened, then I'm gonna add the mushrooms. Well, I think maybe what I'll do, and then I will stir this around. Sorry, I hope you guys, you don't have whiplash by me moving this computer, but I'm going to stir, like the onions right now are releasing water. So that'll get the brown chicken bits off the base. So now is the time that you just sort of want to go in there and stir to get all those drippings up. We'll also deglaze it with a bit of wine, but that's what this portion of it does. And I'm not really going to salt at this level either, because I do find, well, there's no one theory, but right now, if I were being thoughtful, which I'm being because I'm with Georgetown Village, I went through a phase of salting at every step, but I think sometimes you make everything taste the same. And if you wait a little bit and salt towards the end, then like their flavors can come out more and then you don't overwhelm it with salt. So that's a reason for that. And yeah, it's coming along. I'm gonna add a splash of wine here.
I would also probably throw some capers in, because I usually do. So,
Oh, capers, yes, capers and olives.
right.
Okay, so I'm out of wine, so I'm just gonna add some vermouth, which will be the same thing. I mean, it'll be a little sweeter and it'll deglaze it a bit.
Gotcha.
And you don't really need that much because the proportions aren't that much.
Right, right. So Diane, I'm glad you joined us. I just want to tell you where we're up to. So we've got the chicken deglazing.
Yeah.
And we're just cooking up some of the onions and vermouth instead of wine, which is an interesting substitute. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Always thinking over here. Scrappy, you know. I'm going to add some thyme sprigs, and then I have a big old bay leaf that I'm going to toss in there.
Oh, I like bay leaf.
Oh, good. I like a bay leaf as well.
Did the skin come off the chicken?
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
It's not.
Does it stay on?
It does
Oh.
stay on, yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Sorry, guys.
I have the recipe on my iPhone. I should look it up.
Oh, no, don't worry. I'm not really following a recipe.
Oh,
And that's the best kind of cooking, is when you improvise with what you have in the
That's
house.
creative
and you know
cook.
what's
It's a
going to be-
roadmap. So these are Indian bay leaves. There's actually
Wow.
there's a nice Indian grocery store. I think, is that East West Highway over in Bethesda? And they sell freshly made samosas, but they also, I just tested a whole bunch of Indian recipes. So there's a lot of Indian spices in my kitchen, and Indian spices are really fun to play with actually, but these are just as good as, I mean, I like them just as much, and I'm just using them because I have an open packet. I don't like to waste anything. So this goes in, and I'm going to give you whiplash again. I'm sorry. I apologize. So this is sort of, can you see that okay?
Yes. I
Yeah.
can-
Is there too much glare?
No,
So,
no, that's good.
so the creaminess is basically from the sugars and the onions, and then we scraped up the drippings. And there isn't that much fat, but that's pretty much how we want it to look. Not, you know, again, noting that we're not following a prescribed recipe, but it looks more or less right. Now's the time. So when I sort of said 15 minutes, the water is boiling. Again, we're cooking this for 2 to 3 people. I always figure about 2 to 3 potatoes per person. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 potatoes. I can toss in another one. It's just me. So, and that's that. So I'm going to stir in the mushrooms now. But before I do that, I'll taste this basically. It's good. It's a little sweet. It's good. It's springy, right? Okay, mushrooms.
Kitty,
And
do you
I should
have
have.
the,
Sorry.
is the fennel in there yet?
Yeah, I added
Yes.
the fennel at the same time
Okay.
as the onions because
Got
they
it.
basically cook the same.
Right. They're the same
I-
texture. Right.
What I should have done was actually added the mushrooms before and browned them, but you know, and you're not really losing anything, but you're not going to get that sort of caramelized edge, but you'll get the mushroom flavor. So now I'm going to try to cook this off, and then we'll return the chicken thighs to the pan, put some water in so it simmers, and then just before it ends, put in the peas and top it off with some torn mint. But we're doing okay on time, so that's fine.
You're doing great.
Does anyone have any questions about like riffs or changes that you like to do or recipes that you make on a nightly basis or anything like that?
And remember, if you have a question, to please unmute before you ask. So
Yeah.
we can hear you.
No, all I can say is chicken thighs became our best friends during the pandemic.
Really?
Oh my
They're
gosh.
tasty.
Yeah, well, the New York Times had 5,000 recipes with chicken thighs, and my husband loves them.
Yeah, they're
And-
good.
And anything, you know, just to get him in the kitchen, I said, go for it.
Yeah,
So, you want your chicken thighs. You
The
know,
New York Times actually put out some great recipes during the
They did.
pandemic. They started that at-home section,
right.
and they came out with sheet pan recipes and all
Right.
sorts of easy, like really good-looking recipes. And so it was fun. You know, they knew
Oh, and
people were stuck home, and they were trying to, find ways to keep you busy. And I thought they did a great job with that.
I agree.
I realized I forgot to add the garlic, but really with recipes like this, doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna go ahead and toss them in whole and smash them open. Just let.
Well, that's why I was going to ask, would you just add it at this point versus forgetting about it?
No, yeah, I would add it. It'll still, I mean, garlic takes how long to give its flavor? The only benefit of adding it earlier would be maybe the flavor would intensify. Well, now there's liquid in the pan. So the thing I can't get back, but I'm a pragmatist, is that I'm not going to get any of that caramelization on anything.
Right.
Like the mushrooms aren't going to caramelize and this garlic won't caramelize. But, there's a lot of ways of looking at that. Like it'll be a softer flavor, but it'll be there. I don't mince my garlic often. I just toss it in whole for a host of reasons. I don't want to worry about it burning principally, but also it does what it needs if you just toss it in whole. And then I sort of remove the bay leaves and the thyme and the garlic if people care, or as Tia Barbara knows, I more typically just put it on the table and I keep it rustic.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But Kitty, when
Yeah.
you say you take the garlic clove and you smash it with a knife
yeah,
before you put it in the broth, correct?
yeah, I do that to peel it without having
Right.
to like, you know,
Right.
sit there. It's just an easy
Right.
way to peel it. Its juices are out and it takes 2
Right.
seconds.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Whereas I
Yeah.
think when I probably started cooking, I thought everything had to be neat and tidy. And that isn't really the case. So a lot of the liquid is cooked off, which is neither good nor bad. It just depends what you're looking for. I mean, if I wanted to get more caramelization, I could like now wait for these things to caramelize, but I think it's fine as is. We're gonna get, the only real reason I would do it would be for coloring.
Mhm.
But we're gonna add enough green in there, so it'll be okay. I'm gonna return the chicken thighs to the pan, and any juices that have accumulated go in there as well. And they've been crisped on both sides, but you should return it so the skin side is facing up. And hold on, I'm just gonna wash my hands very quickly. So you should return it so the skin side is facing up. And when you add the liquid to the pan, which is going to finish cooking them through, you only want to sort of add it so that you don't want to cover the thighs really. And this, however much liquid you put in here, is going to decide how sort of wet your end result is. There's always ways to correct course, but I think that's about right. I don't want it, I just sort of want what I think as I'm making this up as I go along is that I sort of would like a thin gravy at the bottom and not a puddle. It's spring. It should be a little lighter. You should be able to taste the vegetables, so you don't need to cook them as long. So, yeah, so that comes up like about, I would say that's like a fifth of the way up each thigh, but that'll be enough to cover it. And if you need more, you can just add slices. It just splashes of water. So it's always good to have water nearby when you cook. So there's water in this kettle.
And if you added too much water, what would you do about that?
I mean, what would I do? I wouldn't pour it off once it's in. What I would probably do is once the chicken legs are done, I would remove the chicken from the pan and just keep simmering it down until it boils off. I mean, water will evaporate. You know, if it's a soup, I just pour it off, but like, try not to make it a soup. Like that's sort of the point that you want to pay attention. So while I'm going to bring this up to sort of medium-high heat. It's pretty hard to overcook chicken legs, but that said, it can still happen. And I'll show you like what in general, when this is done, how chicken legs should be. I have some other things that I thought I could add, and I would get now that we're a small group, you guys can tell me what you'd like to see in here. We have the peas as per the recipe. Frozen is always best unless they're in season, and I've never seen in season peas on the East Coast. And then I have mustard greens, which are healthy, and I've sliced them up thin. I can show you how to do that.
Okay.
Should I add the mustard greens or just no? Up to you.
I don't cook a lot with mustard greens. So what kind of flavor does that add to it?
It'll make it like a little muddier probably, because like, forget it. You know what? We won't do the mustard greens. How about that? We're just going to keep it springtime. We're towing the
It
line.
won't be as healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I'm
Omit
in
the mustard.
I'm in agreement.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But because I never like to follow rules, and it's fun, typically I have to follow recipes because I test recipes. There's a little red chili that I have that I am going to slice up and add to this. So this is just a fresh chili. I don't like to waste. Do you guys mind?
No, no. As long as I don't have to eat it, you can put chili in it. It's
No.
fine.
So you could add like a jalapeno here or nothing at all, but it'll just sort of add some color. Little.
Yeah, I tend to be a temperature wimp. I don't put a lot of spicy stuff.
Yeah,
in.
it adds temperature too, right?
Yeah, it depends what chili. So here's where we're at. Here's what it's looking like.
So if I was gonna try to add extra spice, I would probably throw some cumin in there.
Yeah,
smells
I have
good.
coriander. You can take it in that direction for sure. I'm gonna add lemon zest at the end, some mint, and then the peas, and then we're gonna end there. I'm gonna check on the potatoes, and then we'll prepare everything for dressing them. We're gonna just do parsley and mint and butter and salt.
And when you vetoed putting in the mustard greens, but I'm sure if it was like winter time and you wanted to throw in the mustard greens, or you
Mustard
could
greens
use
would be good.
kale or maybe spinach even.
Yeah. Or what you could also do is you could just use, I mean, raw vegetables are always the healthiest. So I don't often cook with health in mind, but something you could easily do is also just sort of toss them with salt and a little bit of lemon juice, and then put the chicken and the drippings over it, and they would wilt, but sort of just provide like a salad base. So that's
Nice.
another way to do it.
Well, that's an idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that. So Kitty, I know you're using water.
Yeah.
Would you have added chicken broth instead?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I thought about that when I was shopping for this. A lot of people use chicken broth. I love chicken broth, but I don't like pre-made chicken broth that it like is shelf stable. There is a product that's on the market that isn't bad. It's called Better Than Bouillon, and it's like they sell it in a jar that's about 2 inches high, 3 inches around. And it's a concentrate, but it tastes, I mean, it's salty. So you really sort of need to tread carefully. I don't mind the taste of that. Even still, to be honest, I mean, we're making chicken broth with the water and the aromatics.
Right. And the skin. Right.
And the skin. So I always I don't really like, I've used it and it's fine, but you end up tasting that. But everyone's allowed to be precious, and I'm being precious about that, I guess. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to slice up some mint and some herbs and just have them ready. So this is fresh mint, even though it looks a little sad. I just bought it yesterday. And I'm just going to mince it up. And you could add raw garlic to this. You could do mustard. You could we could add some scallions here. We probably will do that actually.
And where do you like to shop for your produce, for fresh produce?
I like the DC Farmers Market, but I just go to the Whole Foods, honestly. I mean, but I do like, I'll go to the farmers market on a Sunday. I think it's nice. Where do you all shop by? I love Trader Joe's. I do love Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is a good company.
We do most of our shopping Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Whole Foods, and then there are specialty items that we love at Rodman's and Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I mean, Trader Joe's has great tulips.
Trader Joe's has great tulips. Trader Joe's is a great company. They treat their employees well. They're a great company.
They really are. Yeah, I go to Trader Joe's and I have a Wegmans up by me, and their produce is very nice also.
Tastes good. I'm sorry you all can't taste it.
We're going to see it again.
Yeah, you will. You'll see it again.
The only thing about Whole Foods, I order my groceries, and if I want a sweet potato, they send me one this big,
Yeah.
They're so big. And a cabbage like a bowling ball. For one person, it's a lot.
It's too much.
It's too much. So I
Where do
really
you
miss
order it from?
Whole Foods.
Oh, you order from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I see people walking around those halls buying things for others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you order from?
I I don't order, but I go to Whole Foods, and when I'm there now, you see all these people, because I like to go to grocery stores at off hours. So you always see these sort of people that are just clearly buying things for others. I've probably seen your shopper at the Whole Foods pick up your order. Have you been to the new Whole Foods in Upper Georgetown yet?
No,
No, not yet. Have you?
No, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, the deal with it is apparently it's like, you pick something up and you automatically get charged for it.
Yeah.
That there's no registers. It's kind of a, I don't know, Insta charge, if you will.
Yeah, it's the way of the future.
I don't have a car, so is it Georgetown Inn? Close
It's
enough
up,
to walk?
it's up in Glover Park, actually. It's just,
Yeah. Shirley, it was closed for several years, but it's
Oh.
up. What is it near? It's as you go up the hill as though you were going to the National Cathedral.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
It's
on
there,
down.
it's there on the right. It's there on the right, and it was closed for at least 2.5 years. 3 years.
They have
3
a
years.
adaptation.
Yeah.
It's past the grocery store, the supermarket.
oh yeah,
past-
it's past Safeway, it's past Trader Joe's. You just keep going north.
Right. Right.
That's quite a walk to carry groceries back from. I'd have to take Uber.
Take the bus up. You could take the bus right up Wisconsin.
Oh, you can?
Or you could call for a volunteer. We have volunteers that'll take you shopping.
Exactly.
I always forget that.
Or you can continue to have them delivered to you, which sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can ask for that Whole Foods on Wisconsin. Mine doesn't come from there. They, I think they pick the closest Whole Foods.
So I'm going to point out one thing that you should not do at home that I've done that is a mistake. Part of this is that I'm not living in my house. My house is under construction, so I'm staying at someone else's house. And the skin, which we took great care to crisp, like the size of your pot matters. And so as you can see steam circulating in here, if the pan were lower, the skin would have stayed crispy. But because it's getting trapped in there, like it's gone a little soft. So the two things to have avoided that is I could have put it in the oven, or to be honest, like if you all were coming over for dinner, what I could just do is flash it under the broiler and the skin would crisp. So everything basically has a solution to a point. But in lessons or takeaways, the pan that you choose does matter in this regard. Like that, it'll still be tasty, but as a result, I'm losing some of that crisp. The potatoes are basically done and the chicken meat is done, but I'm really waiting for the chicken meat to be fully done. And then I'm going to add the peas because frozen peas take a minute. Anyway, I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to give you an update relative to where we were.
Well, good to know. And that bit about the pot is a good tip too, because.
And when you're testing for the potatoes doneness, there's nothing worse. You cannot serve an undercooked potato. I mean, you can.
I have.
You don't want
to.
You should find your biggest potato and test that rather than just like at random. So just word to the wise. That's all really there. And it's basically cooked, but there's like a little bit of resistance. It's a similar school of thought, like if you're doing beets, when you pierce them, you don't want your knife to totally slide in or else it will have like no texture whatsoever. You want it essentially to slide in quite easily. And then to meet with a little more tension, not resistance, but a little bit more tension in the center. And this, like, it slid in, but there was a bit of tension. So I would say an extra like 2 minutes. Yeah. That for all of these reasons, I'm an annoying person to cook with.
So Kitty, do you have that's gas heat, right? You're
That's
cooking
what?
with gas. You're cooking with gas.
Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
is that you've got it turned up medium, medium low?
It's medium high.
Medium high. Okay.
Yeah. So
And
it's
I
a
think-
medium high. And a lot of actually the drippings have cooked off. Pretty good actually. So I guess I'll check on this now. I'm gonna need to add a splash more water. I'll show you before I add it.
Okay, and I think Diane, did you want to say something? I thought you were trying to say something and you were
Yeah, I
muted.
wanted to ask a question. You do not take the small potatoes out of the water while the bigger ones are still cooking?
If I was fastidious, I would. But my feeling is with a potato, you can overcook it if the skin is pierced, but these skins aren't pierced. So I'm not really worried about it getting waterlogged. If you cook it for so long, the skins will split and then it will get waterlogged, but we're not at that point yet. Effectively, they're more or less all the same size, and that's how you want to cook them. But you know, they're not made in a factory. But that's a very good question. And I'm letting it all go because the difference between the biggest one there and the smallest one there is like a 4-minute cooking difference, maybe 5 minutes. And it won't do anything because I only pierced the big one, not the small one, so water won't be going in. I've taken off my 2 biggest thighs and there's a couple of ways to test for doneness. The most surefire way is just to slice in, to peel back some of the meat, and it's pretty much done. So, and then the other way is you can sort of slip it's a similar resistance test. But it's getting there. So it's pretty much cooked. And I've been talking too much. So I'm gonna add a splash of water because the veggies are starting to darken a bit. And I still need to cook my peas. So this is go time, but I'll just show you. I added that much water and I'm gonna use that liquid to finish cooking my peas in, which are here. And for 3 thighs, again, you sort of want to think about how much you want on each plate. So, I mean, I would say probably like a third of a cup or however much you need to empty out your bag, which is how much I just added. So that's done. And it will just be a minute really. And I've only added enough liquid to loosen up the base. And because it started to brown a bit, actually, the gravy is going to be browner than I thought it would be, but that doesn't really matter. If I wanted to mute that, I could add some creme fraiche if you have that. I'm going to take out the thyme leaf now. And I'll take out this bay leaf. And basically we're kind of good to go. And I'll show you where we're at. And we're there.
Nice.
So Kitty, if you added creme fraiche,
Yeah.
you would just stir that in at the very end.
Yeah, I don't like to cook with creme fraiche until the end because it will melt and its flavor will basically go away. It's similar with cream. I mean, there are some recipes where you cook with cream, but I just don't see the point. It's good. Sorry, pardon me. I wish I kept it just a little more gentle. Like I wish I hadn't talked so much so that when those vegetables were browning, I'd stop that because like it was nice and delicate. And I could have added a splash of water, but otherwise, all things being equal, I think we're okay. And I'm going to drain my potatoes and add them to the scallions and herbs that we sliced up. They're ready. and I'll do another test, but because I know, right, there's no resistance. So I'm just gonna add that. And in this bowl, sorry, in this bowl here, there are scallions and mint and cilantro. The mint will probably brown because it's always wise to add mint at the end. But in the interest of time, and I'm going to add a knob of butter. We've been healthy, basically. I always buy rolls of butter. I like Amish butter. I think it's good. So I just cut off knobs and toss that in.
Do you get that at the market?
Yeah, they sell this at Whole Foods. I mean, Amish grocery stores sell that. Okay. And then I think we should add some lemon zest, which is here. And then you're just going to finally grate that over it. And the residual heat, I could do this if you want to keep the potatoes warm. So I'm just going to dump out this water and we can toss it in this pan and then everything will melt. I'll be right back. So this pot's still hot, and then you can just reintroduce everything to the pot and everything will melt. And there we go. So
Kitty, just to recap,
yeah,
you just put butter, potatoes, mint,
scallions, and I'm just, and I'm just
right, okay.
tossing it.
Got it. Okay.
I can do it over here. So
Right.
bring this over. There's some light here. So there's the potatoes. And that's the chicken. And the only thing the potatoes need, I cook them with enough salt, is a pinch of salt and pepper. And I'll make us a plate.
And then you need to give out your address so we know where to go to.
Yeah,
eat.
come and get it. Come and get it. I'd be happy to. I'll do a little plate. Let me wipe this clean. Sorry about the mess, guys.
Well, that's quite all right. So one of the questions is, what's a good substitute for cilantro? Do you need a substitute or you just don't add the cilantro?
Yeah, I mean, parsley is a good substitute. Basil. I mean, I have basil actually. So I'm just going to put one chicken thigh in the center here, and then you just spoon this sort of around. I don't really want to put it on the skin, but so it's mushrooms and peas and fennel. Then you could put some potatoes on here.
And where did you get this idea of slow food fast?
It was conceived of by the woman that created the section. So here we go. There's
Looks delicious.
dinner. Here, let's do it here. There's probably better light.
It should be very tasty.
It should be a little tasty, yeah. I hope so. If you wanted to top it off with creme fraiche, you could do that now. Again, the mistakes I think I made is the pan was too tall and I got distracted talking to you guys once the liquid got down to the essential. I would have liked it not to be as brown and to be a little softer. But, you know, if I didn't tell you that, you would have thought it was intentional.
We wouldn't know.
So does anyone have any questions?
No, I'm glad we have the recipe, and having watched
Absolutely.
you, we now know that we are a little flexible with the spices and the so on and so forth.
Oh, wait, yeah. The main thing with that flexibility is the only thing you want to think of, the order, like the peas go in at the end because they take a minute.
Right.
The asparagus should go in 3 minutes before the end. So even just shave off, you don't want it overcooked. And then with the artichoke hearts, you can actually kind of cook those like you do the mushrooms. It's sort of dealer's choice. You want them cooked through, obviously, but you know, you can, the longer they cook, the more of the pan drippings they're going to absorb. The less they cook, the more of their own flavor they'll give to the dish.
Right, right, right.
Anyway, I am sorry you can't be here to eat it. Should I taste it and tell you my critique?
Absolutely. We want to know how it is, please.
Let's see.
And while Kitty's tasting, let me remind you, if anybody wants to unmute and ask questions about other, substitutions or dishes, feel free.
Excuse me, I
Yeah.
didn't know if she used fresh artichokes or
Good.
what did she use?
Hmm.
Kitty, what did you use? For
In this
artichokes?
recipe, I didn't use any. In the
Oh.
recipe I sent out, artichokes were optional. We were talking about Trader Joe's. By the way, it's really good. So you can
Oh,
do what I
thank
did.
you,
Anyway.
thank you.
Good to know.
I do not like cooking with jarred artichokes. I think they taste too much like vinegar. But at Whole Foods, they do have frozen artichoke hearts,
Right.
and you don't need to peel them. And you can, you can put them in pasta, or you can put them in with chicken, or just steam, and they're great. So I would use the frozen artichoke hearts. I would not use the preserved artichoke hearts. Or, if you have time to kill and the desire, you could peel back artichokes. But
Yeah, I think the ones in the can absorb all the preservatives that they've been sitting in, and they're not good. I agree with Kitty on that.
Yeah, but you can get the frozen.
this
I
is
think
very
I've
good.
seen them at Trader Joe's too, the frozen artichoke hearts.
Right.
I know Wegmans
Right.
has them, so they are
Right.
easy to find.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So this isn't what I had set out to make, but it is tasty. And
Oh,
so,
There you go.
there you go.
Watch it, and makes it easier when we try the recipe.
Well, yeah, well,
We
hopefully.
could be a little looser and creative if we don't have something, and like you put, we will remember what you put in it. So it'll help.
Loose and creative is always a good way to go. You can't, it's not, there's nothing. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm available, and
Oh,
Thank you.
Kitty.
That's
This was great. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
thank you
Kit.
for
It's
asking me to participate. It was so nice meeting you all.
And thank you, Barbara,
Kitty.
for arranging all this.
Kitty, thank you, dear. I wish I were there with you to eat it.
Yeah, I wish you guys were too. Well, I hope you all have a nice evening, and
You too. I hope you enjoy your
Bye.
dinner.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Barbara.
Thank you.
Kitty. Have a nice evening, everyone.
nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.